So on the bench today, I've got another NOCO unit that I wanted to take a look at with you guys today. Now this one was sent out to me to try out and test. In all honesty, I've been using NOCO products for years now, but here recently I've had the opportunity to collaborate with them on a couple items. And this is one of those units today that we're going to take a look at together. Now that being said, when this thing arrives at your doorstep, this is the box you're going to see when you get it in. NOCO always does a really good job of paying attention to detail. It's always a nicely packaged and very attractive unit when you get it in the mail. But when you get this thing out of the box though, there's not a lot to it. Honestly, all you're gonna get here is your unit itself. You're gonna get a set of jumper cables like you see here, your little storage bag. They can keep the unit in to keep it protected. Now, if you know anything at all about jump starters or the brands that are out there these days, in my opinion, NOCO is kind of at the top of that list. They also have probably the most expensive unit on the market, but there's something to be said about that. I've never honestly had a problem with any of the NOCO stuff that I've got. I've got some of their trickle battery chargers. I've got a couple other jump starters now. And then this particular unit here is a jump starter and an air compressor all in one. Let's go take a look at this unit real quick and we'll go over some of the features on this. I have already run some tests on some tires to get an idea of what the air compressor looks like, but I haven't tested the jump starter yet on this unit. And luckily, or maybe not so luckily, I've got a vehicle outside that actually has a battery that needs to be replaced. It's my work vehicle. And because it's a fleet vehicle, I can't replace that battery myself. I have to wait until someone can actually come to replace it for me. But with that being said, I do have something we can actually test this unit on today that has a battery that needs replaced, and we can get an idea of how well this jump starter starts that vehicle. Now this particular unit is only a 2000 amp model. They have much larger units on the market available, but the way they've got this one rated is it can basically jumpstart a 6-liter diesel engine or an 8-liter gas engine. And then on the air compressor side of this thing, it does have a lead that's built into the unit. I like and dislike that. I do kind of like the units where you can actually unscrew this and I'll have it available when you absolutely need it. But on this particular unit, it is all built into one. I can see the advantage to that too. It kind of just depends on your personal preference, but they do give you a really nice cord racking system that you can kind of just push that thing back in there and then it stays stowed out of the way pretty well for you. Something I've come to learn with anything that's NOCO, especially when you got big beefy batteries like this and then it's got that air compressor, they usually run a little bit on the heavier side. Now I want to go ahead and see if I can get you a weight on this unit here. I've got a scale here in front of me. We are looking at 7 pounds, 1 ounce on this unit. That's probably easily a couple pounds heavier than some of the other models that I've tested over the years. Now, the one thing I did notice right off the bat when I tested this unit, and the last unit that I tested for NOCO was an Air 20, which was just strictly an air compressor only. When NOCO does an air compressor, these things purr like a kitten. Of all the air compressors I've tested, a lot of them are noisy and rattly. These units just kind of purr right along. I mean, they make a little bit of noise, don't get me wrong. And I'm going to show you that just to get an idea of what this thing sounds like. In fact, let me see if I can't do that for you right now. I'll turn this unit on and we'll hit the air button just to show you. So yes, it does have a lot of noise. A lot of these air compressors I found that I've tested, they rattle around so much that the unit kind of just wobbles all over the ground while you're airing up a tire. This one actually does a really good job of staying in place, and it's got nice little rubber feet here on the bottom as well. So when you set this thing down on the ground, it does a pretty good job of staying right there. Now, what I will say on these NOCO units at the same time though, this right here on this end is your heat sink, and it'll get up to about 100 degrees if you're really working this thing hard. Now, what I used for my testing on my tires was I've got a livestock trailer. I went ahead and sacrificed one of the tires on that thing. That's the closest tire I had in comparison to the ratings and the testing that they do on their listings when they put these things up. I think the tire's a 205 on like a 16-inch wheel. And they advertised it as being able to basically fully inflate a tire in 2 minutes. I was actually pretty surprised. And in all honesty, that's a pretty good claim that they've made. I was able to air up that tire on my trailer from 0 PSI up to 40 PSI in 2 minutes and 15 seconds with this unit. And then I had enough battery life that I could still go around and basically top off all the other 4 tires on that trailer. And yes, that's including the spare as well. So I took those tires from 32 to 40 PSI, and then I aired up 1 full tire on a battery charge. It is advertised as being able to run continuously for up to 7 minutes. Obviously, when this thing gets a little bit on the warm side, it's got a thermal shut off where it's going to shut this unit off so that it can cool back down again. That way you don't actually damage the components inside the unit. Now, as far as the screen goes, there's not much to this. There's not a lot of bells and whistles, but it's got all the technology built into it that you're going to need as far as reverse polarity, things like that on your jump starter side. So you can see here, very few buttons on the unit. You've got your battery up here showing you how full the battery charge is. And then you do have a flashlight on this unit as well. It's a 100 lumen flashlight, not the brightest flashlight on the market, but in all honesty, these little included flashlights that are on these units like this, they're just going to give you enough light to be able to see your valve stem or be able to see what you're jump starting. And that's really all you're after. I'm not really looking for an overwhelmingly amount of light when it comes to something like this. I've got flashlights for that. But you can see here, just got your on off. You can go dimmer. It does have a flash pattern and then an SOS as well. and I can turn that unit off like that. Now on the front here, you got your air button there. Then you've got your PSI that you can set. So basically this thing's going to tell you what the actual PSI is. You can set your desired rating in here up to 100 PSI. It is a little bit on the lower side on that as well. That's probably going to cover 90% of the tires that me and you are going to actually get into. And if you're doing something like a semi, this obviously isn't the unit for you anyways. They've got bigger units for that. All my trailer tires and all my vehicles here, the biggest setting I've got is at 80 PSI. So this unit will more than cover that. And then last but not least here, you've got your boost button here as well. So basically you can take this unit, and we're gonna have to probably use that button on our particular scenario today because my van out here that I need to jump start is sitting at about 7 volts. And that's not enough that it's gonna be able to register on the unit when I put the jumper cables on and be able to start that unit. That basically temporarily overrides any of the protection features that are built into this unit and gives you max power to the battery so you can get that vehicle running again. So with that being said, let's go out to the work vehicle here. I'll show you the scenario that I've got and see if we can get that vehicle started, and you guys can get an idea of how easily this thing starts the vehicle with that low of a charge. So first thing we'll try to do here real quick is see if we can get this vehicle to start. Obviously you can see I have no dash lights coming on at all. So the voltage on this particular vehicle is really low right now. I can't hit the door locks either. So the next thing we'll do is go out here and I'll put a multimeter on it real fast. And I'll show you what the voltage is on this thing before we try to do a jump start on it. So now I'll go ahead and set up my multimeter real fast, and I'll show you on DC what the readout actually is on this thing. And as you can see with the leads on there, we're sitting like basically just at 7 volts, just a hair over. So that's why the dash isn't lighting up. So let's go ahead and now hook up this unit, and we'll see it together just how easily this thing starts. Now something to keep in mind here, when you get these things plugged in, another safety feature that they've got built in, if I take these clamps like this, you can see there's no sparking at all. So they've really built in a lot of technology into this unit. Make sure you hook this thing up correctly. You're not going to hurt yourself or your vehicle. Now I'm going to go ahead and hook these things up backwards. I want to see if this has an audible tone or anything like that. I'm going to do this on purpose and sacrifice just to see what it does. Most of the times there's just a light and or an audible tone depending on the brand that you're testing. And this is the one downfall I think to this unit being so heavy, is I got to kind of manage this thing and hold it in place while I'm doing this. With it hooked up here, it looks like on the screen it's giving me an error code right here where the PSI readout was. So that's telling me that my unit's backwards. Now it's not giving me any audible tone, so you just have to kind of check that display screen and make sure you got it hooked up correctly. But in most vehicles, this is pretty easy to tell anyways. You just kind of match red to red and black to black. So I'll go ahead and hook up my positive and then my negative. And now I just heard it click. So we're going to see if we can go ahead and start this thing without doing that manual override first and see if it'll actually start. Let's try that now. So as you can see, this thing started right up. It was a little slow, but like I said, the voltage on this vehicle was a little on the low side as well. Now some of these units, and depending on the brand, they monitor different thresholds. So in some cases, on some of your brands, you will have to hit that manual override button. But on this particular unit and the voltage that it was measuring on the battery, we were able to just start it up with no problems at all. So I think that's all I've got for you on this little NOCO unit. Hopefully that was somewhat helpful for you. This is a little bit more of an investment, but honestly, like I said, NOCO's been around for years. They've really got this technology figured out, and I wholeheartedly believe NOCO's kind of at the top of the game when it comes to these jump starters and air compressors. Other than that, that's all I've got for you in this video though today, guys. I hope that was somewhat helpful for you and making a decision as to whether this might be the right unit for you or not. Appreciate you watching. We'll catch you guys on the next one.